Welcome to the Sam and Sam Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. My name is Sam McGinnis, one of your co-hosts for the Sam and Sam Show. I'd like to welcome on our other co-host, as always, Sam Teets. How you doing?
I'm doing great, McGinnis. It's good to be back with you this Friday night.
Yeah, we've done a lot of these at this point.
I think we're on 23 right now. Well, I think 2 of them got taken down, so maybe it's 21. I guess you want to count it, but we've been going.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a while. It's really nice. We got a new segment for you today. Going to be kind of fun for that one to laugh at ourselves there. But let's just get right into it with some NFL news. Some crazy stuff has happened this week.
Yeah, we've got plenty of NFL news to talk about. The NFL really has been popping off here the past couple of days, and it's been great for me because I need the content. But the obvious news since the last time we had a video, which was last Friday, Dak Prescott signs a 4-year extension worth $160 million, so $40 million per year with the Dallas Cowboys. It includes a no-trade clause and a no-tag clause, basically meaning that if the Dallas Cowboys ever want to trade Dak during the duration of this contract extension, they have to get Dak's okay to do it. So basically, Dak has to do okay. It gives Dak control basically wherever he plays. Dak will decide where he plays football. And the no-tag clause basically makes it so at the end of this deal, Dallas cannot tag Dak again. So Dak will have the ability to hit free agency again, I think when he's going to be in his early 30s, and he can sign another massive contract then.
Yeah, I will say Dak basically won this holdout. I don't really think there's much of a question on that. And this is the problem with me. We'll have a conversation about this probably when we talk about the Tom Brady contract that was just signed. But super contracts don't usually work out. I don't like them, and I don't like how they've been going or how they go in the end. And we'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, we'll get to that.
That's true, but Dak's contract actually helps the Dallas Cowboys in the short term because right now,
I mean, if you're talking about the cap hit, then yes.
Yeah, Dak's cap hit this coming year is only $22 million, whereas on the franchise tag, we've been upwards of $35 million. So by signing this contract now and setting up the way it is, they're dating a massive amount of cap back they can spend somewhere else. And Dak's, I'm not sure if this takes into account, by the way, the Mahomes and Brady's restructures that happened today.
Right.
But his $22 million cap hit in 2021 is only 13th among quarterbacks. So he's actually, for a guy who signed a record-setting deal in some sense, he's pretty cheap for them this year. He gives them plenty of cap room in the year when the cap is going down, actually, not going up.
But what's our next piece?
Cam Newton re-signs with the New England Patriots on a 1-year deal worth up to $14 million. It's only $5 million base salary, though. Everything else is incentive-based. Things like Pro Bowls, things like how far Dallas goes in the playoffs, that kind of stuff. So how far New England goes in the playoffs. So I think, it's all based on how well Cam Newton performs and how well the Patriots perform. Very similar to the last contract he signed with New England last year, where essentially, look, you have the ability to earn upwards of $10 million. But none of that, you're only going to get $5 million that straight up. And if they cut him before the start, they could cut him during the season, at the start of the season, very little dead cap hit for them. They don't have, so it's not a huge risk contract. It's a pretty easy deal and a very good deal for both sides if Newton plays well.
Yeah, and this Newton needed this because he played horribly this last season. If he doesn't show something this season, he's going to be done as a starter pretty much forever. So, I mean, for him, it's his own incentive beyond the money just to do well for his own career's sake.
No, I agree with you. He needs to play well. I don't know if I would have viewed him as a star going into this coming season anyways. But I'll say this. I'll say this, though. Cam Newton played much better than Carson Wentz did last year. And Carson Wentz got traded for – no, he did. No, he did. Carson – let me put it this way. Debatable. Cam Newton's top 2 receivers in New England weren't drafted. The 2 best wide receivers on the New England Patriots last year were not drafted. They're undrafted guys who are in their 5th and 2nd years respectively. And that's who he's throwing to. Julian Edelman played 6 games, had only 1 or 2 starts, was not productive, was not relevant in that offense. So if you look at it right now, Cam Newton had a better year than Carson Wentz. He had a better year than someone like Nick Foles. He had a better year than someone like Mitchell Trubisky. And those guys have a chance to be starters next year. So the fact that they're going to be starting and Cam Newton is starting, people need to realize that, hey, Cam Newton's not I agree. I don't view him as a starter. I don't want him as a starter on my team. But there aren't really 32 starting caliber quarterbacks in the NFL anyways.
There never is.
No. There's 20 maybe at most.
There's usually like 2025 because usually a few of the normal starters have down years in there. So usually I would say you have probably about 25.
Well, yeah, and plus you have to take injuries into account, stuff like that. Right. It happens. And Cam Newton, an 82.9 passer rating this past year, people will point to how he didn't throw the ball or how he didn't have many yards. Like, he's never been a very accurate quarterback to begin with. But the passer rating for Carson Wentz is 72.8, almost 10 points lower than Cam Newton's. So you're looking at it that way. I mean, Cam Newton is not the worst option out there.
No, he's not. And I think Belichick is kind of sending the message. If Cam Newton is starting, he's sending the message this rebuild thing is at least another year. Because for him, he's going to rebuild this team. This is one of those situations I have 100% faith that this team will be back at some point. And he's using kind of Cam Newton as their rebuilding quarterback. And for a rebuilding quarterback, that's not a bad option.
No, especially with the contracts he's signed. These things don't hamper
right.
New England's. Like, New England can go out and draft a quarterback in the first round if they want to. They actually go out and sign Ryan Fitzpatrick as their backup quarterback to compete with Cam Newton if they wanted to. So they have plenty of options here. They have tons of salary cap as well. So this deal really doesn't hurt the Patriots whatsoever.
I'd actually like to see Ryan Fitzpatrick would probably be a better rebuild quarterback than Cam Newton.
Yeah, I don't know what Ryan Fitzpatrick wants at this point in his career because Ryan Fitzpatrick is a good quarterback. I would take Ryan Fitzpatrick probably over Cam Newton. The issue, though, with Fitzpatrick, though, is he'll have 1 week where he throws 5 touchdowns and then turn around the next week and throw 3 interceptions. He's very
That's why he's a good rebuild quarterback.
It's true.
He gets fans in the seats, but they still lose games for the tank.
See? Yeah, you're right. He gives out the personality, just that doesn't always come through week to week.
No.
Next bit of news we have here, Mark Ingram, former Pro Bowl running back for the New Orleans Saints and Baltimore Ravens, has signed with the Houston Texans. I'm sure that's going to get Deshaun Watson to stick around.
How far we have fallen. Yeah, that's not going to keep Deshaun Watson around, by the way.
No,
by no means.
Not. The Buffalo Bills, who are close to getting to the Super Bowl this past year, made a couple of big re-signings. They kept linebacker Matt Milano, who's a very good coverage linebacker, so they desperately need that. Every team in the NFL needs coverage linebackers at this point. And they're keeping right tackle Darrell Williams, had a breakout year. Milano signed a 4-year, $44 million deal. Darrell Williams, a 3-year, $28.2 million deal. So both long-term, well, not long-term contracts, but contracts that will give you a solid amount of time here, probably for the duration of this Bills run, or at least for the first portion of it. And they have a chance to stick around here and come back next year and basically be a similar team to what they were in 2020.
And seeing as though what just happened with Kansas City and their loss of offensive linemen, I would say at this point they've asked them. And if we see a repeat of this AFC Championship game, I would actually go with the Bills this time.
Yeah, it's going to be very close. It's going to be much different. I think that I'll pick Patrick Mahomes over everyone except Tom Brady moving forward. So I still would side with the Chiefs here, but it's going to be much closer. Since you hinted at, we'll talk about it right now. That the Kansas City Chiefs have released both that are starting tackles that were entering last year. Pro Bowler Eric Fisher at left tackle and Mitchell Schwartz, a 4-time All-Pro at right tackle. Now, Schwartz only played, I believe, in 6 games this past year. He had some kind of back surgery. There's the possibility he might even retire this offseason because of how serious it could be. So there's that there. And Eric Fisher, he just tore his Achilles in the playoffs, which means he won't be ready, or likely won't be ready for the start of this coming season. It might not even be available until midseason. So that's why they are comfortable moving on from these guys. They also save a ton of cap room by doing so. Right. At the same point, I mean, you're losing both your starting tackles, man. It's going to be a rough ride.
This is going to be a rough ride, and all of a sudden he's going to feel like Russell Wilson.
Oh, he's going to feel much worse than Russell Wilson, man. Patrick Mahomes is going to be looking around and wondering what happened.
Russell Wilson has 3 teams in his division who have top-tier pass rushers. He's not going to feel like Russell Wilson. Nobody except Russell Wilson is going to feel like Russell Wilson this year.
Well, you also have Joey Belson and Von Miller in the same division as if you're Patrick Mahomes, so it's going to be rough either way.
It's going to be rough, but I don't think you can say as rough as the division Russell was in.
Yeah, Mahomes is probably going to be running for his life a little bit here unless they figure out some fancy way to fix this up. Speaking of Chiefs news, Mahomes converts some money on his contract to a signing bonus, so the Chiefs are expecting to do that, and they will save about $17 million. So this is a move Kansas City makes to get under this decreased salary cap, which was – I mean, teams plan to have it go over $200 million when they sign these contracts that a lot of these players are currently playing on. They expect it to be over $200 million this coming year. Because of the pandemic, it's at $82.5 million, almost somewhere between $25 to $30 million short of what there was expected, which is why teams have to cut all these veteran players. So Mahomes' deal getting restructured like this, they absolutely needed this.
Yeah, and on top of this, I gotta say this because we were talking about Mahomes restructuring. This is where we get to the part where I talk about super contracts and have a little rant here because I'm pissed off at quarterbacks nowadays. Okay, sorry, but Matthew Stafford started this with his record-breaking deal in, what was it, 2017?
I don't know. Was it 2017 or was it earlier?
I think I read that recently in research of this topic because, Lions fan, I did remember this. By doing so, you're sabotaging any chance, in my opinion, at a Super Bowl if you take a cap hit as large as your contract is. And by signing all these deals, everybody's wondering, like, well, how does Tom Brady do it year over year as he continues to cut money from his salary? And you're wondering why he does it. He structures the people around him instead of structuring money to him. Not that he needs it, because obviously his wife makes more money than he does, which is ridiculous, but my point is, if you want to win, these quarterbacks need to start realizing that if they want to win, they need to start cutting the price on themselves.
Yeah, to some extent, though, with the Brady thing, he did take less money, but it wasn't necessarily like he was making a ton less money than other quarterbacks at the time. The way Brady's deal was structured is what made it special to some extent. So it's not necessarily that you have to take less money. It's that when you're restructuring your contract, you have to be very careful with how you do it so you maximize the cap load and don't take as much of a cap hit year to year necessarily for your team. So I think there's a way of still getting paid money and still not destroying your team's cap amount like some of these quarterbacks have done in the past. But even guys like Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, their cap hits this year are not huge because obviously Mahomes has had money converted already. Deshaun Watson, his cap hit this year is like $15 million. So it's not like Deshaun Watson has torn down the Houston Texans because they signed a big deal. So that's the thing. I think it's not always – people sometimes like to point to the money because it's sometimes the easier example. It's not always the issue with these teams. And especially this year, I mean, no one anticipated the cap dropping $25 to $30 million from where it was anticipated to be. So I don't know if you can point to players who signed master contractors in the past 2 years and say, hey, you should have seen this coming. It's a little bit more difficult than that.
It's less of how the cap is moving this year and more how it is just in general. In fact, I'm not sure a quarterback, and you look at some of the big-time QBs like Aaron Rodgers, you're wondering where your problems are. You can't pay for everybody. You can't. And when you're taking money from other places on your team, you shouldn't be complaining about it around.
Yeah, I suppose I can somewhat agree with that. I'll get half on board with you there. I'll only put half a foot into the boat, though. I'm not entirely. But then again, your quarterback situation with Matt Stafford, maybe you have more experience with it than I do.
I'm just saying, like, if you're taking all this, because Matthew Stafford was the first of the record-breaking deals, and as soon as I saw that, first off, I thought, wow, he's getting overpaid. And then I thought, wow, our team's screwed now, even more than it was before, because now all those positions we were going to try and fill, we now can't because Matthew Stafford's taking all the money. Quarterbacks need to be less selfish about this stuff if they want to.
But yeah, I realize that's the price of a quarterback. If you don't pay Matt Stafford that record-setting deal, someone else will. And then you end up playing with Chase Daniels, your starting quarterback.
That's a player's decision. That's my point. As hard as it would be to not take that much money, I think and Matthew Stafford realized this. You'll know. I think he's getting paid less on the Rams. Yes.
Part of that is because the deal was structured. It's not that he's taking less money. It's to do with the deal was structured.
Yeah. My point is this, though. I think Matthew Stafford realized at a certain point after signing that deal and then having another rebuild come where we're screwed. Matthew Stafford finally realized, oh, yeah, I want to actually win. And I think some of these other quarterbacks down the line are going to start realizing this and try and restructure the deals like you're talking about because there's a reason Tom Brady wins all the time. You think and this is my point. Tom Brady did not get them to that Super Bowl. Those 3 interceptions against Green Bay and that terrible performance against the Saints defense was not what got them there. It was the Bucs defense and the fact that he had the proper weapons around him. And quarterbacks need to start realizing some of these deals are killing them on that.
Yeah, we'll see. When the cap jumps back up, I think things will open up quite a bit more, and that teams will have a lot more breathing room once that happens. But speaking of Tom Brady, he signed a 1-year extension with Tampa Bay, and he structured the deal in a format that saves Tampa Bay $19 million this year. I mean, they already franchise tagged Chris Godwin. They re-signed Levante David. They're going to go after Shaq Barrett, and they're presumably going to get Gronk and Antonio Brown back at some point. They're bringing the bang back there, and basically they're trying to not change anything. They want everything to be the same this coming season as it was last year.
If it works, don't try and change it. It's pretty simple concept, and I like the idea, especially since your time is limited with Tom Brady, because eventually, yes, regardless of how long, eventually, yes, here soon-ish, he will fall off a cliff just because your body physically cannot handle it at a certain point. So your time
He's gotten another 10 years. He's got another 10 years. Don't rush him, McGinnis.
He's not playing to 55. Don't give me that. Nobody's playing to 55. Heck, I don't even think Gordie Howe did that, and he played into his 50s.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much longer Brady has left, but he's still playing pretty well. So I think he could go presumably for another 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I think 2 or 3 is fair. And I think the genius with Tom Brady is he'll make himself look good with all the players around him and then retire before it gets bad enough that he looks bad, because he's smart enough to do that.
Well, he's smart enough to do that, but he wants to keep playing no matter what. This is the issue with Tom Brady. He's very obsessive, and all these QBs are like this. All the guys who are up there, they're so obsessed with the idea that they can do it one more time, the idea that they can get another bite out of the apple, that sometimes they push it a year or two too far. So we'll see if that happens with Brady or not.
I think he's smart enough that he won't do that. I think he'll cut it off here either at the end of this contract or the next one, because he will sign another one.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it works out here for Tom Brady. But some franchise tag players to discuss. Mark May, safety for the Jets. Marcus Williams, a safety for the Saints, which was a surprising one considering the Saints are in salary cap hell, and they still managed to franchise tag a safety. Justin Simmons, a safety for the Denver Broncos. Leonard Williams, defensive tackle / defensive end for the New York Giants. Chris Godwin, we just mentioned. Allen Robinson, wide receiver for the Chicago Bears. He's not going to like that. Cam Robinson, another surprising one. I guess you could say average left tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Taylor Moton, a right tackle for the Carolina Panthers. And Brandon Sheriff, a all-pro guard for the Washington football team.
A lot of names. And on your point to the Saints, your defense wasn't the issue this last year. And I like the fact that they restructured with Drew Brees. If he does end up retiring, then that will be even less of an issue. But yeah, they're in a cap issue right now, and they need to be working to ways to find space, not create problems. And I think they did with that one.
Yeah, they have cut a number of players over the past couple of days. And we talked about Malcolm Brown, who's a defensive tackle they recently cut. Emmanuel Sanders, who was a wide receiver, obviously. Janoris Jenkins, a corner on the defense. They've cut a ton of guys, and they're probably going to have to restructure a bunch more just to get under the salary cap. So the Saints are in a position where they're killing their depth to just get under the salary cap this year. They don't even have a quarterback because presumably Drew Brees will wait until after June 1st to retire. That way the dead cap hit for him gets split between 2 years essentially, so the Saints don't take all the hit in one season. But it's just a situation right now where I don't see this team being a playoff team next year just because they won't have anyone. They won't have any depth. I mean, they don't unless they hammer home a draft class where they just hit on every pick like they did, I think, in 2017. That was the Alvin Kamara class. Unless they do that again, I don't see this working out, at least for this coming season.
They'll be a playoff team, but they won't go far. Because the problem is, to your point, the missing piece to this team is actually a quarterback, as hard as that is to believe, with Drew Brees having been there for the last few years. If they had a different quarterback, like if Aaron Rodgers, for instance, had been on the Saints these last couple of years, Super Bowl, no question. At least one. At least. But Drew Brees has thrown inconvenient interceptions at every point possible during the playoffs, and the defense a couple of those years, like, for instance, the Minneapolis Miracle, has also shot them in the foot. But honestly, the missing piece is quarterback. Who are you rolling with, Jameis Winston?
It's got to be Jameis Winston, right? You're not doing Taysom Hill.
But, of course, with Peyton there, of course, they'll probably end up going with Taysom Hill anyway, even though it's probably the stupidest decision ever.
Who the heck knows? Yeah, Taysom Hill has a cap hit of like $10 million this year or something like that. It's ridiculous, right? Back in QB. Who's a better tight end than he's a quarterback.
You paid a utility player way too much.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not college. The utility players are not the premier guys you want around the football. So I just can't. I can't with the Saints. I just can't. He's
just too frustrated. They'll go like 10-8 or 11-7, and make the playoffs. They won't beat Tampa Bay, but they'll make the playoffs.
I don't even know if I would go that far, McGinnis. I think I would be leaning more towards 8 or 9 wins.
Dang. All right, then.
All right, we talked about a bunch of the players got cut, so we can skip over that because it's just a lot of our names. Guys like Trey Turner, Kevin Zettler.
Already.
Yeah, we can skip over some of these names. We can get right into your NHL news.
This is a fun one because I was not expecting them to re-sign Jordan Binnington yet. But what do you know? The St. Louis Blues go out and they sign Jordan Binnington for, I believe, so the next 6 years for $36 million. So that's $6 million a year if you're doing your math.
Well, yeah, which obviously is not necessarily as big as the $40 million that Dak Prescott's getting per year. But
this is not a bad contract for a goalie. It's not. I am hesitant with them signing him for so long, though. We're going to get a little bit more into this later, but the more and more you watch Jordan Binnington, the more and more you think he was a flash in the pan. Like a one-year wonder kind of a deal, because the following year he did pretty well. The following Stanley Cup, run that they had, he was doing well. He was what Jordan Binnington looked like the previous year, maybe not quite to the same level, but he was looking pretty well. Playoffs, he melted down and just died. He was disgusting on the ice. It was awful, and I loved every moment of it because I don't like the Blues. But in this season, he hasn't been fantastic either. A .908 save percentage is not what you would hope for from your starting goaltender. So I don't know. I wouldn't have signed him quite yet. I either would have waited till the end of the season, or I would have signed him for less years.
Yeah, it looks like he's gotten worse every year over the past 3 seasons. So at this point, you have to wonder, a 6-year contract, I understand you want to be having him around for a long time. You want to have the ability to keep him around. But a 6-year deal, and he's 27 years old, so he's obviously got some time left in him, quite a bit. But
33.
6 years, it's a long time in any sport.
Yeah, it's too much for a guy that hasn't proven enough. One year is not enough, and we're seeing this with Matt Murray now too, who is now awful. Of course, the team he's on is awful too, which doesn't help. But he was not good for the Penguins till last year. He was with them, and they re-signed him. And don't just go because it's the first thing you see that looks good. You got to have patience with some of these things. But we'll move on to our next one, which I think has got to be the biggest NHL news we've had in a while. So NBCSN, for those of you who don't know, is going to cease to exist here at some point. And ESPN just signed a 7-year deal with the NHL to start airing their games instead of NBCSN.
When was the last time the NHL was on ESPN? Was it the early 2000s, I want to say?
It was 2004. The last game aired on ESPN was the Tampa Bay. Well, actually, the last time the Tampa Bay Lightning won the Cup minus this last year in 2004.
Yeah, so ESPN gets them back. I know ESPN's been trying to diversify their package a little bit in sports. Like, from now getting National Hockey League back on board after NBCSN, basically, I don't know what they're doing. They're collapsing. They're just
they're
just wiping off the face of the earth. I don't know how to describe it, but
the channel's going to be
going away. Yeah, it's permanently going away, and ESPN gets the profit off of it.
Yeah, if people really get to see now, because NBCSN, you don't really usually think of that as the first place you go to watch sports or something. But because it's going to be on ESPN now, more people might get exposed to hockey like it was back in the day. And so you might actually get more hockey fans and drive up your revenue that way also.
Yeah, I can personally see that. NBCSN has never been one of the major networks I care about turning on when I'm looking for a major sporting event.
The only people that care are the people that care about hockey, which is a lot of people, but ESPN, if somebody now flips the channel and all of a sudden it's hockey because you turned on ESPN and for some reason it's hockey, more people might actually be able to get into this. And I do encourage you to do so. Trust me, you will not regret the speed of the game.
Yep, so it's big news for National Hockey League, obviously. But back to some player news. We got another benching coming up.
Oh, my goodness. I cannot describe to you how much I hate John Tortorella right now. Patrick Laine got benched again. According to Tortorella, I think, so he got benched for the third period in overtime, basically. The Jackets ended up losing that game 5-4 in overtime. And Laine hadn't played particularly well during that game, but you're sabotaging the dude's confidence. I mean, he even said it himself. It's near zero, is what he said personally, is that his confidence was near zero. This is the guy that consistently scores 60-ish points per season and has a great shot and scores a ton of goals per season, is saying his confidence is near zero. There's a problem with somebody else, not him. And the fact that he keeps benching him is just a sign like, you're not doing well, so I'm going to put you back here. And Laine said it himself. He also thought he was playing good during that game, and he said, well, apparently not.
Is this someone just looking for a scapegoat here?
What?
Is this someone just looking for a scapegoat, trying to force blame on someone else here?
I don't know what it is. I heard an interesting take. Somebody was wondering if it was just John Tortorella trying to show people who's in charge or something, because Patrick Laine is a bit of a person, but you're destroying your forward here.
Yeah, you can't be doing that to players, especially when they're productive players. I think you just have to know when it's time to get out of your own way. It doesn't sound like that's going on. It doesn't sound like that's exactly what's happening in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, the best coaches empower the players to be what they're best at. That's what the best coaches do. John Tortorella is trying to force everybody to be his system, which clearly isn't working.
Yeah, if we look forward now, the Islanders have gotten hot. They're now first place in the Eastern Division, ahead of the Capitals, Penguins, and Bruins.
Yeah, and the Bruins have fallen off a little bit. I mean, the standings are close, but yeah, the Bruins and Flyers both fell off a little bit there. But the Islanders get hot, and obviously under a different coach who I actually respect a ton, Barry Trotz. Yeah, this shouldn't be too surprising. The Islanders have the potential to be everything and nothing under Barry Trotz because he's got the coaching ability, but the forward talent is lacking, so you never kind of know what you're going to get with them.
Yeah, so you feel confident that let me say it this way. Do you feel confident they're going to be able to maintain what they have going currently, or is this going to be a situation where they're going to drop off at some point?
They will not be the first in this division. They do not have the talent to be first in this division, regardless of how good the coaching is. The coaching can take them to insane heights, even in the playoffs, because Barry Trotz is a phenomenal coach. But I think this is a short-term thing and enjoy it while it lasts because the talent just isn't there to be first in the division.
Where do you think they would finish in this division? You had to just give me a guess. Where do you think they will end up? So they're first right now. How far do they fall?
Anywhere from third to fifth.
Okay, so third's not bad, but I think fifth would be a little bit of a significant drop considering where they are currently.
Yeah, but it's certainly possible. I mean, last year they stuttered out and almost, if the playoffs had gone through, I think they might have actually missed the playoffs had it gone through normally, and after having a decent season. But they're interesting because again, the forward talent is lacking, which sabotages the team, but the coaching kind of keeps them up there. So they're kind of an interesting unknown.
Okay, and if you remember the last time we did the show, the Flames have fired their head coach, but it seems like they might be heading in the right direction.
Yep, they get a win, 2-1, their first win under their new head coach, and also, I believe, his first game. You can't judge anything off of one game, and we've seen a ton of coaches that last year when they got fired, because there was a huge spree last year of coaches getting fired, including Mike Babcock, and these teams started doing well after that. And then some of them fell off. So it kind of seems like there's a short spurt time in the NFL after you lose a coach with a new system where players maybe just kind of feel free and they're able to be themselves or something. I'm not exactly sure. But they tend to do well after firing coaches. But that short little period, you can't judge off of that. You have to judge off of the long term.
Yep, so we'll see if they can get back on board. But is this season already over for them? I mean, they are
no, it is not.
12-12 right now.
I'll explain to you why it's not. We're about halfway through the season. They'd have to get hot now. What did I just say? After coaches get fired, they generally have a hot streak, and their first win comes directly after firing their coach. If they do get hot now, there is a chance they could make that fourth spot if the Canadiens continue to fall, which would actually be really good for my predictions earlier in the season on both the Canadiens and the Calgary Flames part. So yeah, if they do get hot because of the coaching change and the Canadiens continue to drop after their hot start, we could actually see a situation in which they pretty much swap places.
All right, so there's a chance for the Flames to get into the playoffs, and we talked about the East Division already with the Islanders on top of the Capitals, but the Capitals are working to re-sign Alex Ovechkin.
This is a must. Do not lose Ovechkin. But it's tricky because when you're trying to sign these, and this is more contract restructuring like we were talking about. If you're trying to sign a big-name person and not sabotage your team, you have to do it right. So this might take a little bit of time, but it is in the process.
Yes, how they give a time frame for how long this is going to take, or is it just something that they're just starting to work on right now?
It's just something they're starting to work on. They haven't said when this is going to be done.
Okay.
But if they leave him, he's going to be a pending UFA. I assume Ovechkin wants to stay. This has been his home since the dawn of time. I'm sure he wants to. Nobody wants him to go, not even the management, so they're probably going to work something out.
All right, and we look here, the last bit of NHL news here. They're expecting it to be a normal, quote-unquote, normal 82-game season with normal divisions for the next year in the National Hockey League, so for the 2022 season.
This is great news for me personally because I like the divisions better the way they were. Not to say I don't like this little mix-up. I like seeing new things occasionally, but you got to have a steady normal. And on top of that, with the Seattle Kraken coming to the league, this is really good news for them because now they're not going to be stepping into a whole bunch of weirdness. If this really does go through normal, they get a normal season, which is what you probably want stepping in as a new franchise.
All right, so that will close out our NHL news segment of the show.
Yep.
You have a segment, though, you want to throw out. The grueling truths of the week. I'll pull it up right here.
Yeah.
All right, what are your grueling truths of the week, and why are they wrong? Tell me. I'm going to go after one of them, but tell me what you think.
I'm gonna start with the second one because I might have to restructure the way I want to say the first one. Okay, so for me, John Tortorella has to be fired. There's no question. This has to be a grueling truth of the week. The reason for this is obviously, one, the only time you won a playoff series under John Tortorella was the one time Tampa Bay choked and they beat your butt the next year, no problem. Two, he's sabotaging players' confidence and they cannot score goals to save their lives. I mean, we talked about this. They tried to address their issues. What they did moves-wise was perfect. They got Max Domi. They got Patrick Laine. Funny how neither of those players are producing the way they should be. They even got Jack Roslovic. Like, they're trying to address their needs, but every time forward talent comes into Columbus, it just dies. This has to be a result of the coaching or management. It's not a player's fault when that happens usually. And the fact that it happens to so many players, that when there's a trend like that, I don't see how you can keep Tortorella around after so many years of failure. And then when you try to address your issues, it doesn't work out. He benches people. He's generally just a jerk. I don't like him. Please get rid of him.
Well, they have a losing record right now, right?
Oh yeah, they're doing very poorly. I have a friend who's a huge Jackets fan down here, and he watches most, if not all, those games. And he says it's been very frustrating watching the Jackets games. And I understand it. The goal horn hasn't been going off much, and they've been losing a lot. Losing in overtime isn't enough. Getting that 1 point instead of 2 is not enough to get you into the playoffs.
All right, and your next grueling truth of the week.
Okay.
Let's see how you word this.
I'm going to have to word this differently than I wrote it. By signing Dak Prescott, the Cowboys have decided they are not going to win a Super Bowl because Dak is not good enough to win a Super Bowl.
All right, so let me ask you this. What was their alternative here? What was their alternative to Dak Prescott?
This is the problem. This is the biggest problem. It's a grueling truth this time, not because it was necessarily their own fault, but because that's just the situation they were stuck in.
Okay, I can respect that, but at the same point, there are examples of teams winning Super Bowls. I mean, Joe Flacco is a Super Bowl champion. Joe Flacco is a Super Bowl champion. So I think Dak Prescott, Dallas can win with Dak Prescott. My concern with Dallas would be they've given so much money to Ezekiel Elliott and Amari Cooper. I think those contracts are probably bigger concerns than the Dak Prescott one, for me at least.
Yeah, I mean, Dak Prescott for me isn't, and like you said, I mean, even Nick Foles has a Super Bowl. So I think when it comes down to this, you wouldn't traditionally think of Dak Prescott being good enough to win a Super Bowl. Traditionally. I think most of those Joe Flacco, Nick Foles situations are probably exceptions.
I guess, but Trent Dilfer 1-1. There are plenty of examples where guys that you wouldn't say, that's not a top 5 QB in the league have gone out and still been on a Super Bowl winning team. I just think that Dallas' concern is roster construction, not Dak Prescott, in my opinion.
Well, and also Dak Prescott isn't going to solve every issue. You think your record this last year was a result of only losing Dak? No, it was not. They would have been 500 if they had had Dak.
Yeah, I'm going to buy that, which means they probably would have made the playoffs actually in that division, considering how bad the division was. But
they absolutely, the closest team to them would have been 7-9, if that, because again with Dak they probably would have won more of those. But they still would have gotten rolled immediately by Tampa, just the way Washington did.
Oh yeah, well, because Dallas doesn't have a defense right now. The offensive line's getting older; they're injured. Zeke didn't have a good year this past season, so I think Dallas, to me, it's Dallas is a team stuck in the middle because they have a handful of very good players, very highly paid players, but not a full cast of starters capable of getting together and being a 12-win team and winning 3 or 4 games to get to the Super Bowl and win.
Yeah, that's definitely not happening. I think really the question now is, can anybody beat Tampa Bay? And actually, this is going to sound funny, but I think the Rams are the best shot at that.
I mean, the Rams. I can see Green Bay. Green Bay has personnel. If Green Bay put the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hands at the very end of the game instead of going for an onside kick, I think there's a chance.
Listen, Aaron Rodgers had his chance 3 times. 3 different times Tom Brady threw an interception. You want to know how many points they scored on those? 0. That's
fair. That's fair. The Rams did beat the Bucs last year during the regular season, so there is.
And they didn't have Matthew Stafford.
And they didn't have Matthew Stafford, but the Rams are losing a lot of people this offseason, so we'll see. The Rams are probably going to be worse next year on defense than they were this past season.
But they're also going to be better on offense, so I think that might even out a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see how it flattens out. See if we can get a Rams team maybe that will win that division. We talked about the Rams are probably best suited to actually win that division the way things are headed right now. But
all right, we got a brand new segment for you now. This one's going to be fun because we get to make fun of ourselves today. So our next segment.
Actually, again, let me try something really. I'm going to pull this up.
Okay.
So you can see the YouTube video. I'm going to hit play. I need you to tell me if you can hear the sound or not. And if you can't, I'm just going to take my headphones off, and then you should be able to hear it. But
all right. I cannot.
All right, so you cannot hear that. All right, hold off.
Look, he has ears.
I know we've
what about now?
So many times.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, here we go.
It back. I'll explain how this works real quick.
Yep.
All right. So we pulled clips from previous Sam and Sam shows where we hit or miss on a prediction we made or something we said. So this is going to be fun just for my own sake because I was the one that got to edit this. So I get to also make fun of Sam Teets here, but I'm also making fun of myself. So it's a little bit of a double. So we're gonna play a clip, and then Sam Teets is gonna pause it once it's going to the next one, and we're gonna talk about it a little bit. So you can
go.
Here.
Yeah, who do you think is going to come out on top in this game? Let's just go right to our picks. Who do you think is going to win Super Bowl 55? I know we've talked about this so many times, but
we have talked about 2 or 3 times already at this point.
At the beginning of the playoffs, I did absolutely horrible in the wild card round for whatever reason. And since then, I've gone with my gut, and I've done well. And I think my gut has to tell me that Kansas City is going to break that long. You haven't gone back-to-back in Super Bowls since the Patriots forever ago. I think they're going to do it again here.
All right, you can pause it. All right.
What was that? That was that.
That's as dizzy as what that is. All right, pull us back up for a minute so we can talk about this one. This one's bad. So
right.
I was thinking to myself, okay, I am 8-4 right now. I can go 9-4 if I pick this right. I've made this big prediction about, what Patrick Mahomes is going to be, which I still believe, by the way, because I think Patrick Mahomes will learn from Tom Brady's restructuring of contracts here sometime in the future. And then I kind of neglected the fact that the offense and defensive line is the most important positions that I've personally said this a number of times, and I guess got too rolled up in the hype. It happens to all of us. It was a stupid thing to say, by the way.
I picked them too. I mean, I was right there with you. I even said on the NFL show when it was me, you, Mike.
You really knew we were.
I was like, look, this is what's going to happen. We're all going to pick the Chiefs. Mike's the only one going to pick the Bucs. They have a better offensive line, better defense line. That usually means they're going to win. Mike's the only one going to take Tampa Bay, and he's going to rub it in all our faces. You know what happened? Exactly that. So,
see, that wasn't on the Sam and Sam show, though, so I couldn't pull that clip up.
That's true.
All right.
Yeah, it's just – I was right there with you, though.
I'm proud of this next one, by the way, because yeah. All right. This next one.
Oh, are you? Are you proud of this next one, McGinnis? All right, let's hear it. Let's see it.
This is a hit for sure.
Yeah, okay. So the first one I want to throw at you here is Matthew Stafford will be traded next year. Speaking of Mets.
So did you mean this offseason?
Either this offseason or during.
You remember when they said they would be there forever, Teets?
You know, I really, yeah, I think I shot you down, though. I think I'm pretty sure I said not this year. So I think you got that one right. I'm pretty sure I got that one wrong.
So the funny part is, so here's the thing. You're going to want to keep watching the clip because at one point you did say I was nuts, but that was not in this particular video. But now I get to make fun of you because this next one's of you.
Oh, fantastic. I can't believe I just get to play this video. Awesome. All right.
There you go. All right. Hit me with yours.
All right, first one, not coach related. The three best players on the field tomorrow night will be Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Tyreek Hill.
Oh, that's actually, oh no. I forgot I said that. I'm actually kind of happy I forgot I said that.
I was happy for a minute. Yeah, no. So I think only one of those could be actually accurate because Patrick Mahomes probably made some of the most brilliant incompletions ever in NFL history. But Travis Kelce dropped an important pass, and who even was the other guy during that game?
Yeah, the three best players in that game were probably on Tampa Bay's defense, all of them. So
yeah, like probably all defensive linemen.
Or linebackers, yeah. I'll admit it. I struck out on 0 for 3 there. I was not my best showing.
Nah, we all make mistakes though. You did get this next one right, though. I would say because remember you changed your opinion on this and it ended up being right.
All right, I'm excited to see this then.
Stafford, move on. There will be plenty of teams willing to give up first-round picks for Matt Stafford. Trust me. So I think this is thinking there's absolutely a chance Stafford gets traded here, especially to help her rebuild.
All right. Well, there you have it. Yeah, I don't remember saying that either. I seem to forget quite a bit. But no, I'm glad I got that one right a little bit. Because I did think for Detroit it makes a lot of sense, though, to get rid of him and get as many draft picks as possible because you're not going to be winning anytime soon.
And it frees up all that cap space.
Well, yeah. Yeah, and let's be honest. Even if you take a dead cap hit this year, because you do think take some dead money for trading Stafford, but at the same point, you're not winning this year, so why does it matter?
Right. Yeah. This year's going to be a disaster.
Well, you got that right. It absolutely is going to be a disaster. All right. So that was an interesting news segment. Thank you, by the way, for doing the editing for that. I do like the sounds included as well. I do appreciate that.
Yes, I thought about putting in ducks there, but I thought maybe that would be a little too unprofessional.
All right, well, thinking or dreaming now. This is, of course, the thing we do every week where we throw out some hypotheticals, throw out some ideas here, and the other person tells us where it's thinking or dreaming, whether it's basically possible, where it's just dumb. So we're going to go for it here, and I'm going to give you one of mine to start with.
Okay.
Jordan Bennington won't be on the St. Louis Blues in 6 years.
Okay, in 6, I thought it said in 2. I missed it there. But yeah, in 6, I'm sad for the Blues if he is. Either that or somehow he's turned it around, but I don't think he's gonna. I think he's going to continue to end up being what kind of like what Jake Allen was. They tried to hold on to Jake Allen for a long time, which is funny because he actually is intermittently doing well now. and then decides not to. He's kind of an enigma. But Jordan Binnington is going to hover, I think, around a 9, 10, 9, 8% save percentage, probably for the rest of the time he's in the Blues organization. And then they're going to have to decide. They're going to have to decide if they want to go after a better goaltender or if that he's just going to be their subpar goaltender while the rest of the team tries to get it done, because they're still getting it done even with subpar goaltending from Jordan Binnington right now. So it might not matter enough. So it kind of depends on more the rest of the team than it does Jordan Binnington, I think, in the end. So this is an in-between. This is, I'll say it's thinking because it could quite certainly happen, but at the same time, it could also be dreaming in the sense that, they actually could keep him around. Also, I will point out in our previous segment, 3 of the 4 of those were all thinking or dreaming segment that I took from there, because that's usually the time we make the dumbest statements. So,
one of the best statements. Hey, we get some hits every now and then.
We actually do get a decent number of hits. I will say that.
All right. So how about you give me one of yours then?
All right, we're gonna get to the first of mine here. The Cowboys will lead their division next year with Dak Prescott. I think this is a pretty easy one.
Yeah, I agree with you here because they by far are the best QB in the NFC East. They just do. I mean, Daniel Jones to me won't be in New York for very much longer. I think he'll be there maybe a couple more years, unless he pulls a Josh Allen and is phenomenal in the near future. I don't think Daniel Jones is a long-term future there. Washington doesn't have a quarterback outside of Taylor Heineke right now, and he has 1 or 2 games in the past 2 or 3 years. And then you've got Philly, and you have another thing to dream about that. So I won't dive too deep into what Philly has at QB right now. But Dak Prescott, I think, absolutely gives them an advantage in Dallas. My only concern would be that Washington has by far a superior defense. That's the only thing that would hold them back.
And a front 7 that's scary, honestly.
Yeah, they have a very – and it's not – the defense is not a top 2 or 3 defense. It's a very good defense. It's top 10, but I don't think it is 1 or 2 or 3. So I think that's probably going to be Washington's problem is they don't have a defense that's good enough to get you to an 8-8 season or an 8-9 season, I guess now. Whereas with Dallas, I think Dak Prescott's good enough to get you that level where you will be able to win this division. I don't think it's going to be very good next year either. I think it'll probably still be fairly weak. So I think Dak Prescott makes a lot of difference for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, as we said, he was the difference between them missing the playoffs and going 500 and making the playoffs. So I think Dak will improve this team significantly.
All right, my second one for you. The Texans will fire new head coach David Culley. That's his name, and a lot of people don't even realize it at this point. They will fire him in under 2 years.
Oh, man. This is harsh. Under 2 years. So I'm going to go and I'm going to say what I said about Matt Patricia. So he lasted in Detroit for 3 years. And here's my problem with this. The Texans aren't – I don't think much of anybody would do that outside of maybe the Browns when they were in their prime because they were
when the Browns were in their prime of being Browns, they were absolutely doing that. But
they were going through coaches like pancakes. But, yeah, no, this is dreaming. I think it'll be 2-3 years. If they get him out after, it'll be after the second season. That's and in fact that doesn't even make any sense, regardless of how bad the team does in that time, because you literally do not know what your coach is after 1 season, and not 1.5 either.
That's fair. I do think there are some the organization just isn't that well run though. That's my thing. Is the organizations like this right now, they're like in total chaos. Sometimes make bad decisions. Multiple.
But I find the Browns are a unique situation. Usually when organizations suck, they keep bad coaches like that around longer. And the bad logic of mine that says, well, if he didn't work out the first 3 years, maybe he'll break out the 4. If he's not doing something after 3 years, there's something wrong. A rebuild, regardless of how bad, should never take longer than that, at least to get you somewhere.
All right, let's hear your second one.
All right. Jalen Hurts won't live up to expectations this year.
I don't even know what expectations are. I mean, I have no idea what do the Eagles expect from Jalen Hurts. I'm in a group chat with a bunch of Eagles fans because we all talk football quite a bit. There's one fan in there.
Fans.
Eagles fans are very interesting. There's one fan in there who says that he's going to be next Russell Wilson.
That's ludicrous. I'm sorry.
And then there's 3 more fans and me in there who are saying That's the stupidest thing we've ever heard. He's not even as good as Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson's still a very good quarterback, by the way. I'm not trying to bash him, but
He's top.
I think they're the tier Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. So I don't really know what the expectations are for him this coming year. I think they're all over the board, frankly. The owners backed him up, and I don't know why the owner is getting involved in personnel decisions like this. I think that should be left for the football people, but whatever. I think that he will be the starter for most, if not all, this coming season because they're not going to bring a backup quarterback in to compete with them. I don't know. Expectations have to be really low, right? I mean, I don't know if he can probably live up to the really low expectations, but they're not going to be winning more than maybe 5 or 6 games. So I think people will be disappointed regardless. Let's just put it that way. Philly fans will be disappointed no matter what happens here.
Philly fans are disappointed unless they win the Super Bowl. So
I think if they made the playoffs, they would be pretty happy, but I don't see any way that happening. Like I said, 5 to 6 wins is probably the reality for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, and poor Jalen Hurts, I think it's going to be one of those situations like we were talking about with Jordan Biddington, where it's like, wow, he was really good for like 5 minutes, and then you realize the rest of the team sucks, and then that's very hard to be very good when the rest of the team sucks.
Well, that's the truth, but the Eagles wide receivers right now, they don't really have much receiving core. They're getting rid of your longtime tight end like Zach Ertz. You're going to trade him at some point. And the offensive line, still have some very popular names along the line, but they're early to mid-30s. They're injured.
Names.
It's not a good situation for Jalen Hurts. It's not conducive to a player like Hurts, who was drafted as a developmental quarterback, only entering his second season. It's just not a good situation. He's probably not going to have great results.
Yeah, no, I don't think so either. And I think every time they play Washington is going to be an issue for him.
Well, at least he's mobile, though, right? I mean, you have a chance there to
tell Russell Wilson he's mobile.
Well, I guess it only goes so far. I guess you're right there.
Yeah, I'm sure Russell Wilson is sick of hearing he's mobile. If you don't get that guy some offensive linemen, it's over.
Is there anything else we want to add here tonight? I do see you have some save percentages down here. Do you want to do a player comparison, or what are we doing here?
Sorry, that was to remind me about the Jordan Biddington talk.
Okay, yeah, I just see the Biddington numbers. Yep, I see them. Okay.
Just a quick brush up on that then. To point out our little flash in the pan, here are his save percentages over the last 3 years. The first year when he got there, 927. Last year, 912. This year, 908. And his goals against average continues to go up by year also.
Yeah, from 1.89 to 2.56 to 2.69. So like I said, over the past two and a half seasons, he's shown regression from that one great year he had. And I'd like to point out the year before that, he really wasn't even consistently in that rotation. I don't believe, or he wasn't very good at the very honest. It wasn't someone you would view as a guy you would give a 6-year deal to. So,
yeah, the deal kind of boggles my brain. But, you know, teams think they've got the guy and then they go with it. On a side note, it is technically possible for Henrik Lundqvist to actually play for the Capitals this year. Whether he will or not, I have no idea. But it is technically possible.
I mean, that's great for him, though, because we were thinking when it came out that he was going to have the surgery, we were thinking that there was no way he was actually going to play this year. The ability that he even has a chance to play is hopefully a very good sign that he'll be able to come back and play at very least next season, the entire year, and make a full recovery.
Yeah, I think he'll have a chance to come back next year.
All right, well, that's going to be it for us tonight. I'd like to remind you the Sam and Sam Show is live on the Gruel and Truth Facebook page every Friday at 9:30. Sometimes we move the time around a little bit, but usually around 9:30, so you can go and check us out on Friday nights. We got plenty of our episodes in the past. You want to go check those out as well. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. We appreciate you guys stopping by. Like I said, every Friday we'll be here. Me and Sam McGinnis. You can follow Sam McGinnis at Samuel McG22 on Twitter.
Yeah, it's hilarious how many, because Mike always remembers yours, but for some reason mine's super hard to remember, so he always has to ask me.
Well, because he's been doing I have like 200 podcasts with Mike at this point, so he got to the point where he just has to remember it.
There's no way he couldn't.
Yeah. And you can follow me on Twitter at Sam_Teets33, where I post all my articles with Gruel and Truth. We had 2 more go up today. One on Cam Newton news, another one talking about some of the most improved players in the NFL from this past season. So you can go check out all my articles, all my sports content there. And you can also find McGinnis's articles on his football, probably on his Twitter page. I imagine you post the links there. But also, you can just go to thegruelandtruth.com and go to the NHL section, go to the hockey section. You will find all McGinnis' content there as well. But for now, for my co-host, Sam McGinnis, I'm Sam Teets. Thank you all for tuning in. We hope to see you all